A very good morning, respected chairpersons, seniors in the audience, and my dear colleagues. I'm Dr. Priyanka Deshpande, currently working as a senior registrar in St. GS Medical College in KEM Hospital, Mumbai. So I bring greetings from the city of Mumbai and from my institute or Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology from St. GS Medical College in KEM Hospital. So the topic of my talk today is pregnancy prescriptions. Just to put the topic in perspective, I'll start with a few numbers. So 90% of the women, pregnant women, take at least one drug in pregnancy, out of which 70% drugs are prescribed drugs. So basically, drugs which are taken in pregnancy can be of two types. One is the prescribed drugs which is given by a doctor, and the second is an over-the-counter drug which usually the patient takes herself. For example, paracetamol when she has got some backache, or ibuprofen when she has got headache. So I will be concentrating on the prescribed drugs, essentially the drugs which we as doctors are giving, and I won't cover the over-the-counter drugs because that is another topic of deliberation altogether. So I found this very interesting study and quite an exhaustive one published in 2015 which studied the epidemiology of medicine use in pregnancy. Essentially what type of medicines are used, what are the common medications used, in which trimesters are medicines more commonly used. So this is a study which gave us in detail about all these factors. So what this study showed that in the year 1975 to 1978, around that time, a pregnant woman was on an average taking around 2.6, which is 2 to 3 drugs in her overall pregnancy. But over a period of 4.5 decades, this has changed to more than 4 drugs, which is a whooping 68% increase in the number of drugs that a pregnant woman is taking. So more than half of pregnant women today are on an average taking more than 4 drugs in their antenatal period. This is a trimester-wise distribution of the drugs, and as you can see, we are quite aware that as pregnancy advances, more and more disorders in pregnancy are diagnosed. For example, diabetes, hypertension, cholestasis, and hence the number of medications that the patient takes also goes on increasing. So roughly around 1 in 10 women take a medication in the first trimester, 1 in 3 in the second trimester, and it increases to 1 in 2. So almost 50% of the women in third trimester are on some or the other drugs. A few more important things which are affecting these use of medications in pregnancy are the changing demographics. So today we have more and more elderly women who are becoming pregnant. This has led to number of women who are already suffering from known medical conditions such as diabetes, hypertension, asthma, depression. So they're already on medications when they come to us in our antenatal period. And also obstetric complications like nausea, vomiting of pregnancy, gestational diabetes, cholestasis, preeclampsia, all these disorders are also on the rise because of maternal age, also because of epigenetics, because of environmental factors, because of increasing artificial reproductive techniques, all these things, and hence the number of medications that a patient is on is increasing. So the fetus in 2020 is exposed to a plethora of drugs, right from antiemetics and antihistaminics in the first trimester, analgesics all throughout pregnancy, antibiotics for preterm labor and continued post-op, anti-epileptics, anti-anxiety. So anti-anxiety are the drugs, and antidepressants is the new class which is rampantly on the rise. One of the study that I read quoted that initially these antidepressants were used only by 1% of the pregnant women. In today's practice, we are seeing that almost 10% of the pregnant women are on some kind of anti-anxiety or antidepressant drugs. So this is a worrying trend to begin with. I would first like to go into the pharmacology of drugs. So there are two things. One is the pharmacokinetics and the second one is the pharmacodynamics. So basically some of the changes I have mentioned here which affect the drug metabolism, increasing blood volume, fat stores, renal blood flow, which leads to increased clearance of drugs, decrease in serum albumin, which leads to increased amount of free drug in the blood, and hence the side effect of these drugs are increased, and drug metabolism. So another one of the pillars of my presentation today is this study which I found, pregnancy associated changes in pharmacokinetics. So how do these physiological changes affect the concentration of drugs that we are normally giving? So if I prescribe thyroxine to a normal person who is non-pregnant and to a lady who is pregnant, the effect of thyroxine is going to be different in a non-pregnant woman and in a pregnant woman because the serum albumin in pregnancy has reduced, and hence the free amount of thyroxine thyroxine has increased, and hence I need to taper the doses of thyroxine accordingly in pregnancy. These are the things which are affected by pharmacokinetics. So this is a very exhaustive list, but some of the changes which are stark are highlighted in bold. So commonly used drugs such as amoxicillin, azithromycin, flucloxacillin, which is used in breast abscess, piperacillin, tazobactam, which are high-end antibiotics for sepsis and pregnancy, carbamazepine, lamotrigine. So important to note in these class of drugs is that the clearance in pregnancy from the kidneys is increased because of increased renal blood flow, and hence the level of anti-epileptics always reduces in pregnancy, making the patients more prone for seizures. Hence these doses have to be increased, and subsequently after the changes of pregnancy have reverted back 6 weeks postpartum, they have to be again tapered down. So all these things need to be kept in mind. So a beautiful guide that I found, Guide to Good Prescribing, which was published by the WHO in the year 1994, and it has been reprinted 3 times. It gives us the pillars of prescribing drugs. So it says that the art of prescribing drugs is basically divided into 4 things. The process of rational treatment, you have to justify what you are treating. Selecting your P drug. So this P drug concept, P stands for personal drug. For example, if I have a urinary tract infection, some doctor might think Augmentin is the best drug for me. Some doctor might think azithromycin is the best drug for me, especially in common conditions like URTIs, headache, which are commonly seen in pregnant women. So these are P drugs, the drugs which are preferred by one particular doctor on the basis of their experience, but it should not be just on the basis of experience, it should also be on the terms of efficacy, safety, suitability and cost. So any drug that we are prescribing in pregnancy, we need to keep all these points in mind when we are giving. So how do I choose a P drug? There are so many things and so many conditions that I come across. How do I decide which drug to use and which drug to not use? So apart from my experience, what will help me is that I need to define the diagnosis correctly. I need to define the therapeutic objective. So a patient, if she is coming to me with cough and she has sputum, productive sputum, at that time I need to understand that treating the bacterial infection is more important than just treating the symptomatic cough, because if I treat the bacterial infection, the cough is going to be treated automatically. So I should not put her on cough suppressants, rather I should go for an antibacterial agent. So these are the things that we need to keep in mind. Making an inventory of effective group of drugs, because basically there are so many drugs given by so many brands, but we need to make a list of the drugs which we feel are most effective, choosing an effective group according to criteria, and then choosing the drug. So some of the time-tested rules for prescribing drugs are proven efficacy and safety, unnecessary duplication should be avoided, adequate scientific data should be there for the drug that you are prescribing, generic names, please bear in mind, write the generic names in capital letters when you are prescribing, always remember about the cost-benefit ratio, and when you are deciding between 2 drugs which have got similar efficacy, you should always keep in mind which drug has got a better safety profile, which drug is more favorable pharmacokinetics, and I'll just take 30 seconds extra. Thank you. And which drug has got reliable local manufacture facilities, and always choose single drugs over fixed drug combinations, because in single drug you are always assured of the efficacy of the drug, whereas in fixed drug combinations the combination might not be as efficacious. So another thing that I found on Google, so when I typed medical lawsuits relating to drugs only in the year 2019, within a period of 0.46 seconds I had 23,60,000 hits that I got. So lawsuits, yes, definitely related to drugs, and doctors as such, we are very vulnerable, and I was very surprised to find some companies who are proactively offering that, do you feel you are a victim of drug abuse? Do you feel that you have been prescribed the wrong drug? Please contact us, we will give you free legal advice as to whether the wrong drug was prescribed to you or not. So we have to be very careful when we are putting that pen on paper and prescribing a drug to the patient. So I totally agree that a lot of drugs are coming up and it is very difficult to keep everything in mind, but a few of the authentic sites that I found give very good information about drugs is DailyMed, Medline Plus, Medscape, the FDA, CDC, and the Drug Enforcement Administration.
Dr. Priyanka?
Yeah, I'm done. So just to conclude, one of the favorite statements of my pharmacology professor, which he used to tell us, prescribing should be a part of a logical deductive process based on comprehensive and objective information. It should not be a knee-jerk reaction, not be from a cookbook. or a response to commercial pressure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.